to the cloud, and here we go. So welcome everyone to this Keptn community meeting. For today we have prepared a couple of things. First of all, I want to welcome new community members that are now also finding us on the CNCF community meeting calendar or CNCF calendar in general. So it's cncf.io/calendar, and you will also find the Keptn community meetings there. Just one remark, if you're taking a look at the calendar, just be aware it's in UTC time, so it's not reflected to your own time zone. You have to click on it and you have to open it in your calendar. I think when you click on more details, it will open in your own calendar, and then the time will be the correct time. And yeah, you can subscribe to this calendar so you never miss a Keptn community meeting. Hacktoberfest is still going on, so if you want to contribute with your either code improvements or documentation improvements, you're welcome to do so. Please follow our contribution guidelines, and we're happy to see your contribution and then eventually accept your contribution. Let me just close this. Well, I think you all know already about the mailing list that we have. You will get weekly news directly into your mailbox. And again, for all the new contributors, please start with a good first issue. All of them are tagged in our GitHub repository. So I think you will find something that fits your skill set, and please take a look there. If you have any questions, put your question directly on the GitHub issue, or reach out to us in Slack. That's the two best options. And with this, if we don't have any announcement up here, I think I'm already handing over to the noteworthy issues and PRs. Since I've added myself on top of the list, I'll just go ahead. I won't show you a PR to the Keptn main repository, but I want to briefly just explain what we did with Litmus. That should load actually. Let me try to reload. So Litmus is a chaos testing framework for chaos experiments built for Kubernetes. And if you want to combine chaos testing with Keptn, now you can do this with this integration. And it basically works, I think we have explained it here. It basically works that this service will also listen for deployment finished events. So the same time when we start performance tests, we also start some chaos. So after the performance tests are finished, also the chaos will be finished. And then the SLO evaluation will take care of the performance testing where also chaos has happened. So why you might want to do this is to test resiliency of your applications. And we recommend, that's also a recommendation from the Litmus team, to always do the Litmus chaos testing when there is some load on your service. So with Keptn, you can do this easily by just adding the Litmus service besides your JMeter service or the other testing service that you already have. The chaos experiment will be executed, and then in the next phase, Keptn will do the evaluation as you already know this. So this can be done. All you have to do is to also install Litmus in your cluster, obviously, and then add one file. It has to have the name experiment.yaml, and you add it to the service and the stage in a particular project, and then the Keptn Litmus service will find this, will execute this. I think that's the main part or the main idea of the service. If you're interested, please give it a try. And there will be also a Keptn webinar together with the Litmus team where we will be explaining how this works in detail. But for now, I think I just wanted to announce this real quick. Okay, with this, are there any questions on this Litmus service?
Jürgen, just one question. What is actually chaos? Or
okay.
what?
That's a very good question. So Litmus, they have their chaos hub, and any kind of chaos are, I would say, some conditions to your microservice that you would not expect. Something like a pod will be killed, or there will be CPU separation on your application, or the network will be cut, or the disk will be flooded with temporary files. So anything you actually don't want to see in your applications, and the Litmus framework will introduce this. So for example, you can test if your replica set is resilient enough to serve a lot of requests, and if one or two pods get killed during this test execution, then you will see if the service still satisfies the SLOs that you have defined.
Got it. This means that this Litmus service is running in parallel to a testing service?
Yes, exactly. So the idea is that you trigger the deployment with Keptn. Then after the deployment, the tests will be triggered, and Keptn will trigger with this integration 2 tests. First of all, the JMeter test that will execute some load, and then the chaos test. In our experimentations and in our development phase, we always did the delete pod chaos experiment. So it was always deleting a pod from the microservice that we tested, and then we could do the SLO evaluation afterwards. And just depending on how fast the pod could come up again, or how often the pod has been killed, we can then see in the SLO evaluation if we still meet the SLOs if the pod gets killed a couple of times. So with this, we can test the resiliency of the application if we still meet the SLOs, even if the pod gets killed, for example.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just of curiosity, if your evaluation is, I assume your evaluation is then garbage, right? Because, or would you then consider it for the next evaluation?
That's a very interesting question, and we also discussed this. So in my opinion, the evaluation is not garbage at all, because what we are really testing is not we are testing the response time, for example, or the failure rate in an environment that you cannot predict. So for example, if the service cannot survive, if one pod will be killed and we cannot meet our SLOs, what we could do is we could just increase the replica set by 1 or by 10%, by 50%, whatever, and then run the experiment again. If we then survive, we know we have increased the resiliency of our application. And even though if in our production environment, one pod will be killed within a time frame of 2 minutes, our application will still satisfy the SLOs. So we can find out what do we have to do to make our application more robust and more resilient.
Okay,
That's the idea of the chaos testing, and why we still have the SLO evaluation is because we need some kind of quality gate, or we need some kind of score that we know if the experiment or if the chaos is bringing our quality down, or if we have done a great job with high availability setups that we don't bring the quality down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Your answer to not consider it as garbage, because it's still a valid evaluation result. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it will be the scenario will be more to execute chaos together with your performance tests, and then find out what are the SLOs that are failing. Maybe the response time is still good, but maybe it's the error rate that will be failing. And then you can tweak your application and tweak the settings of your health charts or whatever to satisfy the SLOs, although you have chaos. I think that's one of the use cases.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for this question. If there are any other questions, you can also put them in the chat or in the Q&A section, as always. Otherwise, I would hand over to Johannes.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. What the pull request or the issue that I have to share today is in regard to the documentation, and there we want to explain the requirements for a Keptn service that is running on in the execution plane. And actually, this PR is not finished yet, as I need a review from someone of the community. But still, let's just take a look at the documentation so that you get also an understanding what is there and where I did changes. Let's jump over to the pull request and let's have a look into the preview. When we go to the docs, then it's now under development for 0.8. And the part that I was changing is the custom integrations part. And there I touched all of these three files, but mainly the first one, which is about writing a Keptn service. And as we see here in this introduction, we consider a Keptn service as the generic format of any service that is running in the execution plane. And then we do have two very specific Keptn services that are the SLI provider and the action provider. The SLI provider, as you know, is required for fetching SLIs from a monitoring solution or a testing framework, and the action provider is an action that is executed as part of a remediation workflow. But those are just two specific services that follow the same pattern as any other Keptn service. And what I have done now is, first of all, make a reference to our template repository where you can get started to write your own Keptn service. This is the Keptn service template -go. And in there you will find a deployment manifest which contains two Kubernetes resources. The first one is the Kubernetes deployment, which comes with two containers. And the second Kubernetes resource is the service. I would recommend to reuse this deployment manifest, yeah, just as it is. And what you have to replace is then the image of the actual container that is running your code. What I have done then provided is explanation of what is required to write your Keptn service and also the characteristics that a Keptn service has to follow. The first one is you need a subscription to an event. The second one is whenever the event comes in, you need to send out a so-called started event to inform Keptn that your service is going to execute something. Then the third step is really processing your functionality. And last but not least, when your Keptn service is done, then send back a finished event to Keptn, just to let Keptn know that Keptn can go on with the workflow defined in the shipyard.
Johannes,
Mhm.
Can I ask a question here?
Absolutely.
So the bold parts here, like in this 4 bullet item list, the bold parts are the ones that I have to touch when I do the integration, or are these the ones that are actually already provided? Because the processing the functionality, basically number 3, I have to do, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the send starting event and send finished event, is this one done by the template already, or do I have to do this as a developer?
Those are explained further down, but
Okay.
very good question. And the bold items, they are prepared for you. There is the distributor, and I will then explain how to change this distributor to subscribe to an event. Then in the template, there is a function that allows you to send the started event. Then in the template, there's also a function to send the finished event. But the third step, yeah, this is the code that you have to write and you have to implement. And that's actually what's coming next. Here is explained how to subscribe to the Keptn event, the format that such a Keptn event looks like, and then the things you have to touch in your distributor to make it listen to your to the event you are looking for.
I have a quick question about the distributor here. Do we have, I think we have this functionality already that the distributor doesn't connect to NUTS, but to the Keptn API. So in case I am using the distributor on an external cluster?
Very good question, and I think I have to forward it to Florian. Florian,
Yeah.
can you help out?
Exactly. So we will have that functionality in version 08, but with the current version 0.7.2, this functionality is not there yet.
Yeah, but that's the docs for 08. So
yeah.
That's why I was asking it. So
because I was looking at the image tag here.
that's right.
Yeah.
Spotted it, another thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know it at the top of my head, but I've added a detailed description in the correlating pull request where I've added this this functionality. I can send you the link, Johannes, in case you have a look at it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Then I will consider it here in the documentation. But from my understanding, is it just changing this pub/sub URL to the endpoint of Keptn?
Not quite. There is a new parameter that determines the kind of protocol you want to use, so either NUTS or HTTP in that case. And depending on what you have added here, you have to fill out another environment variable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Great that we discussed that in the group.
Can we also add examples how to subscribe to more than one event or more to one topic? I know that it's possible because we also did this in the Litmus service, but it would be great to have examples here how the pub/sub topic can look like if you want to subscribe for all or just for one or for multiple events.
I think that's a good question, because if you just want multiple events, you can have a comma separated list as far as I know. But if you want all events, I'm not sure if it's that easy, because we have a new set, the triple or even quadruple of events now with triggered, finished, started, etc. And you wouldn't want to listen to, I don't know, started events if you just want to have the finished events. So this might be something we need to consider in the distributor.
But you might want to listen to all events like for a notification service, and then in the service maybe itself you filter out some events that you are not interested in, probably.
Yeah, that's quite possible. But we need to come up with a way that we can say we only want to listen to triggered events, for instance. Because in this example that's shown right here with 08.
This is actually this is wrong. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if we should listen to test finished at all, rather test triggered. Yeah. But yeah, you already see there could be a lot of confusion happening for the end users. We need to be careful with what we implement in a distributor here. Yeah.
But my takeaway is that we need to provide an example for multiple events, and whether or not we support a pattern there, depending on the implementation of the distributor. All right, and this part I have also to update. Okay, but let's just go a little bit further down. Here I'm explaining that you need to send out a started event when your Keptn service starts to work. And there's also a very nice feature of the distributor you can use, because when your distributor is running as a sidecar, then you just can send this event to localhost port 8081, and then the distributor is taking over the responsibility of sending the event back to Keptn. And you don't need to directly communicate with Keptn, just use the distributor to take over the communication. Then here I'm explaining that you have to write the functionality depending on the capability you want to add to your continuous delivery workflow or to your remediation workflow. And finally, when you are done, send back a finished event, as I said before, to inform Keptn that your job is executed. And here in this event, you need to provide two properties at least. The first one is the status, and the second one is the result property. The status informs Keptn whether the execution was succeeded correctly or errored or run in an unknown state. And the result just informs Keptn whether the execution result was passed or failed. These two properties must be are a requirement.
And can we pass more information?
Of course, you can. You can put as much as information as you want into the payload, but these two are required. And that's actually a very good question, because let's assume you are listening to a test event, then there is this reserved spot of a test property in the data block. And in this block, you can add as much of information and as much data as you want.
And because I was working with the Litmus team, and we were thinking if it's possible to also include some information from the Litmus tests itself. So when we know the Litmus tests have finished, then we might want to send some information back, maybe a score, so that we would say status is succeeded, result is passed, and a Litmus score or some other information.
Yep.
So we can arbitrarily basically define, and maybe it's picked up by Keptn, but
right. Yeah. Feel free to add data here in this block, and then it will be consumed by Keptn. At least consumed.
Consumed and put into the data store.
Correct.
This might be a silly question. It might just be a wording issue, but status, we say the status of the task execution, and result, we say the result of a successful task execution. Does a task always need to succeed in order to have a result, or does it imply result failed if the status is unknown? Or should we just combine, or have every possibility to combine it? I don't know. It might lead to some inconsistencies if we allow everything, I guess. But I'm like thinking, what if the status is unknown and the result is passed? What does this tell us? It doesn't tell us anything.
The status always overrules the result. Depending on the result is depending on a successful execution. From my understanding.
Yeah, it's also what I understand. I'm just wondering if there are any cases that we didn't consider. Like, let's say, I don't know, you execute something, like you send a message to somewhere. Sending the message per se might have succeeded, obviously, but you don't know if it actually was retrieved. And then the result is pass or failed. I mean, like the status unknown is what puzzles me a little bit. Yeah. So maybe status unknown can still result in a pass or failed.
Yep, I agree.
Or should we remove unknown at all? Maybe
just make it to succeeded or errored.
I don't know. Did we introduce it because we had a use case in mind? Maybe
it was more having a fallback to situations where a task is not succeeded or errored.
Oh, what if I think I know what it was. Is it because we don't know? What if a task doesn't send a status flag because they don't adhere to the spec because it's an old service or something like that? And to be compatible, we just assume we don't know the status, but we could know the result. I think that makes sense for unknown. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, makes sense. If we don't get the status, we will assume it's unknown.
Yep.
And we take a look at the result. 'Makes sense.
Makes sense. All right. Yeah, then like sending a started event, you can also send a finished event directly to the event endpoint of Keptn or using the distributor. And here I just explain very shortly how to deploy your Keptn service based on the deployment manifest that I recommend to use from the service template. All right, that was a very good review round with a couple of things I have to change, and I will do those changes tomorrow or next week, and then we'll ask someone to give me a final review. All right. Then there are no other people's listed here. Then I think it's time to jump over to the working items. Let's just have a quick look into the items that are ready for review. Florian,
Yeah.
the first one is the CLI and shipyard support.
Exactly. So in version 08, we're going to introduce a new format for the shipyard file. And obviously we had to adapt the Keptn backend services into CLI to be able to create projects using that new specification. And in the course of implementing this issue, we also refactored a lot of things. So basically we moved the HTTP endpoint for creating and deleting and updating projects and services from the API service to the new shipyard-controller, because creating projects is done by a shipyard. So it made sense to do that here. And we also changed the way we are communicating with the CLI. So for the create project and create service command, we do not have a WebSocket communication anymore, but we will immediately send back the response and the result of the create or delete operation via the HTTP response. So the CLI gets, or it's a little bit easier for the CLI and also for other clients that use the HTTP endpoint to get immediate feedback on that. So basically the status here is the feature is implemented completely and the pull request is ready for review. And as soon as it has been merged, I can show it in the next community meeting.
Perfect. Then this issue is improving the post-installation step. I left a comment there because Christian brought up a very good point. The idea is to show the actual endpoint and a command to get the API token after you executed a Keptn install command. And Ankit implemented this correctly. He showed it, or he shows the implementation on the pull request. Yeah, where he now prints the endpoint and also not the API token itself, but the command to retrieve the API token. And Christian brought up a very valid point that this is actually sensitive data. And when you use then Keptn install in an automated fashion or somehow automated, then all the logs of your automation will then contain this sensitive information. And I proposed to use or to introduce a flag which is called hide sensitive data. And whenever this flag is added to the Keptn install command, then the output should not be visible. And this gives us then the chance to use this Keptn install command in for example, in Travis and other automation tools.
And if we enable it by default on Windows, the bug that Christian Heckelmann has brought up is no longer a bug.
Yep, it's true.
We'll
see it later. Yeah, just a minor issue because those commands that we show here, then they're not supported on a Windows machine. They're just
the one you see here is actually supported, but the one that we wanted to have with kubectl in it is
Right.
Yeah, because we have the brackets and the dollar sign and these kind of things.
And we use base64 decode and whatever else that's available on Linux, macOS, and not on Windows.
All right.
It's really unfortunate. There's a balance between what you can do and what we shouldn't do, and yeah.
Yep. My recommendation here is to use this flag to disable the output.
Yeah, looks good.
But I think it's a pretty good improvement, because otherwise you would have to take a look in the documentation. What is the correct kubectl statement for my installation option?
Yeah, true. I mean, now we have it in code, and can and the user does not need to take a look into the documentation. That's true.
Cool.
But we
Thanks
must be careful with this sensitive data. All right, then, just a quick update on this issue.
Yep.
Florian.
This is about extending the Mongodb data store with the possibility to invalidate events, so most specifically evaluation events, so they don't get compared with the current evaluation anymore in case they have been invalidated. So what I've done here, I've added a new endpoint to the Mongodb data store that allows to retrieve events of a certain type, and with the option to exclude events that have been invalidated. So that in further consequence will be used by the Lighthouse service, for example, when it fetches the previous evaluation results to compare the current evaluation with. So this is implemented completely and also ready for review. So
cool.
Yeah.
Then Ermin was fixing a bug for the bridge, because Patrick Hoffman reported that the bridge was not loading when the name bridge was part of the domain. And yeah, Ermin provided a fix for that, and he also used a couple of unit tests to validate this fix. And let's just have a look. Here, for example, when you have a domain with bridge.demo.keptn.sh, then the bridge was not loading. But with his change, he now is able to get the correct base URL, I think.
Nice. Do you know, did he backport it? Or
Yeah,
is
he
this
did.
Just, yeah.
No,
Okay.
he did. Yeah, I just merged both today.
Nice. I like the testing approach.
And I think I will move it over there. We don't need a presentation next week. Christian, did you show us the improvements already of the documentation?
I think I did last week. I think we did some minor changes based on your comments, so that one is done.
Okay,
yeah.
Then move it. The integration page, yeah, well, it's already part of the 0.72 release, and I think Ermin also showed us the page already.
I think so too. Nevertheless, it's in the release already, so
true. It's out of the door. Actually, it's that one. True. All right, then what we have here is, oh yeah, Bernd identified this bug. Which was about the enhancement that we now support URLs also for referencing a shipyard when you do a Keptn grade project. And Ankit did this or implemented this feature, and he was also helping out on improving it a little bit further, as Bernd identified here some problems. Yeah. Should we take a look at the code?
Ben, do you want to show the code or explain?
I think it's not really necessary.
Okay.
The problem here was actually that the URL you passed via this flag was actually used to search for a file on a disk and not for downloading it from that URL, and that was fixed here. So nothing really spectacular, I think.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Then I also want to move it over. And last but not least, here we have one contribution from Pedro, also identified by Bernd, that commands are taking too long and to return when no connection to Kubernetes to a Keptn can be established. And the fix is actually, let's just have a look here. Hi guys.
So the fix was done by a contributor. He has removed, first of all, he's removed it from the root command. We will have to reintroduce it in a different way, although later, because we want the version check in the root command. It's to some extent, yeah, but not to what it was before. And most importantly, he's introduced a timeout, as you can see here. So the HTTP requests don't take like 2 minutes to timeout, but 5 seconds, in case there's a network error or the cluster is down or whatever. So yeah, and he added tests for it, which is also nice.
Cool. Yeah, Pedro is not on the call. Then I will take his job to move it over. Then we are done here.
Can I, sorry for interrupting, but I have to drop a little bit earlier because I have to go to a meetup, to a virtual meetup. We have some attendees also in this community meeting that might have some questions, especially Tide or Tide, sorry if the name, if I pronounce it not correctly. He would have some questions. So please make sure that during this meeting you also have some time to address these questions. Johannes, I will give you the host of this meeting.
Okay.
So then you can later on unmute Tide or Tide, and he can follow up with you with the questions. Okay,
perfect. Yeah, I don't want to go through the items that are in progress or already assigned. I want to jump directly to those that are in the backlog. And I think there is also one that has been assigned to Tide, and then we can discuss that one.
All right.
All right.
Maybe I'll start with the first one. So with the help of Thomas, I think he's on the call. Did he leave already? He left. With the help of Thomas, we identified a small issue. If you send a new artifact and you use docker.io, we always check for the whether the image and the tag exists. But if you don't use docker.io and you just use, like in the second example, the Keptn example's cards image with a tag that does not exist, which are provoked here, then you end up having a WebSocket connection timeout in the CLI. So the WebSocket connection timeout itself is not the issue. That might happen, all right? It's like not good, but it might happen. But the actual issue is that Helm service hangs. So it completely hangs itself up. It just keeps running in an infinite loop in that process. I think it's multi-threaded, so it's not a big deal. But if you send, let's say, 100 such events into the cluster, you'll have 100 processes that have an infinite loop. If you can scroll down, Johannes, we've identified the issue. Actually, Helm service calls wait for deployment to be rolled out, which is in Kubernetes utils, which are linked down below. For some reason, it's not being previewed in the GitHub issue, but if you can open it quickly. Yeah, here you see it's just a loop with a time.sleep. And the only way this loop exits is an error happens when reading the replicas or the spec of the deployment, or the deployment itself gets a progress deadline exceeded. But if none of this happens, this just runs in an infinite loop forever. And this is, as far as we debugged it, this is what happens. And I think we need some more debugging into it, but we also definitely need a limit here, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes at top, that we can exit. I wanted to mark this as a good first issue, but I think it's a little bit more involved. But if you have some experience with the Helm service, this should be rather easy to fix. Just one minor detail, we need to fix this for 073. I'm not sure if it's still the same code for 08, but we definitely need to fix it for 073 for now.
But as we are talking about a function in the Kubernetes utils, it might be the same.
Yeah, it should be the same. So the fix will be in Kubernetes utils, yeah, to be clear. Yeah, is anyone up for doing that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. Then the second one. All right, the second one is also a change of the Keptn CLI, and as Florian already mentioned before, the shipyard-controller is now having an endpoint for creating and a project, a service, and in this feature, it's a task to change the CLI commands for create service, onboard service, and delete service to use the new endpoints of the shipyard-controller. The first task is actually already implemented, but what's still missing is that those commands, especially the create service command, onboard service command, supports the deployment strategy as additional flag, but this is not needed anymore and can be removed or should be removed. And in combination, or what's also in scope of this issue, is that we update the integrations test that are currently failing in Travis. All right. Who wants to? Someone up for taking that one?
Yes, since I did the PR with the changes to the project creation, I can do that one as well.
Thank you very much, Florian.
All right, the next one is a follow-up issue. So we have some additions in the configuration service and also within Helm service that we retrieve the Git commit ID. But to be complete with our cloud event spec, we need to add the commit ID of a deployment in the Helm service when it sends the finished events. So it should be a rather small issue, probably even a good first issue, I don't know. Yeah, should be rather easy to fix. Is anyone, yeah, I'm just gonna ask, is anyone up for doing that one?
Yeah, since I'm currently writing the unit tests for the Helm service, I can do this as well if nobody else wants to take this.
Yep, please.
All right. Christian was talking about the specification about the cloud events, and also for the Keptn 0.8, we will need a specification for the new type of events. We already discussed this issue a couple of times in this meeting, but we and Andreas was thinking that we should not or that it's not required, but we think at least the explanation of how cloud event looks like needs to be there. And therefore, this issue is explaining and describing the new format in a generic way first, and then give a couple of examples based on the reserved keywords we have, like for deployment, for an evaluation, for test, release, and approval task. For those, we also need to provide the specification. Someone wants to work on writing specs? Otherwise, I will take that on my agenda.
All right. So the next one, I think it was it Ankit maybe who actually brought it up initially, or actually I think it was another contributor that brought it up that helped us with the Kubernetes 1.19 support, who said the distributor is crashing on the master branch for the API service. And the reason for that was that we left the pub sub topic empty on purpose in the distributor, because the distributor serves as a sidecar to also connect to our nuts cluster. So by removing the distributor, we fixed the crashing of the pod, obviously, but we also removed functionality, so the API can no longer send messages to the event broker. Turns out there is a bug in a distributor, or yeah, we didn't label it as bug, but there is apparently a problem in the distributor. If you don't have a subscription topic, it just fails. And Florian has written the description here, brought it up as well. So he also came up with a solution. So it should be rather simple to do by just syncing two threads that we have, or syncing two Go routines that we have in that little main application. Yeah, and the definition of done basically states the distributor needs to be able to run, to send events without having to subscribe to events. And it needs to be able to be done simultaneously. I think that's already possible. I'm not sure why it's in there. And eventually the distributor needs to be re-added into the manifest of API service in the installer folder. And I think Tida, please just tell us how to pronounce your name properly. You have some questions for this?
Yes, today is better or tight. Yeah, you could come in a bit too. Yes, so I picked this issue. Well, I don't have too much experience doing this, so I just wanted to trying to use it to build, find what to do. So I've been looking at this issue since yesterday, trying to figure out what to do. I've checked the code. So I figured that you want to be able to do these two services together at the same time. One in a one on both on a Go routine and a single wait group, right? But I really haven't been able to figure out how to do that because I haven't checking the code. I'm not sure I can share my screen right now.
You want to share?
Okay, can I do that? Hello? Okay.
Did he just
No, I
drop?
promoted Tide to panelist. He should be able to share his screen.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So this is the code I've been looking at, because that's what, so this is what the last person did. Trying to have the service to be able to make it talk to the Keptn API. So the task is for me to be able to call these functions, this in a Go routine, and this other, both in a Go routine. But I really didn't figure out how to do that. Seeing that this is already called in the main main function too. And the idea is to make sure both of them are done in a Go routine using an async group. So I've been working on that, trying to figure out how to get that working. So I felt that if I come here, you could just point us on how to get it working. Because let me go back to the what I'm supposed to be doing. What I'm supposed to do, yeah. So currently, the listener for the coming cloud events for a certain topic coming from NAT or the API is in the main routine. Why the HTTP 10 points for listening? It started in a Go routine. So I should make sure the both of them are in a separate Go routine as part of a sync and wait group. I understand how to do this, but looking at the current code working, both of them are working, okay, are in the same function. So this is the one talking to the Keptn API. And this is the other main function right here. Where's that? Okay, I think I'm covering something. Oh yeah, good.
Can you, now you're showing us, I think a pull request, but would it be easier to directly go into the code as it is right now on the master branch?
Okay, yeah, on the master branch. Okay, let me, okay, all right. Let me share my, yeah, so this is what we have now. I downloaded it, like I have it on my laptop. Yeah.
You can open the master branch if you just go to the github.com/Keptn/Keptn page.
Okay, all right.
I think it's easier if you just do it via the GitHub repository.
Right,
then
yeah.
just go to the source code there. And the distributor is really just one Go file. It's a lot easier to look at the file here. Yeah, there we go. And there is CMD.
Yes, CMD.
And main.go. And if you then just look at func main, so if you just search in your browser for func, yeah, there we go. Then you can see, you can follow it down to what it does. So in line 74, we already use Go to run the health endpoint. And then we go to _main, and in _main, we use create event forwarding endpoint, which is already also another Go routine. If you look into that.
Okay.
So if you can click on it. I think it is in the same file, or it jumps down. So
okay. 105. Okay.
There we go. So here you see in line 110, we also just create another server at port 8081 with Go HTTP listen and serve. And essentially, if you scroll up again, something similar should be done with the NUTS client connection. But as we don't have a pub subtopic set, creating the NUTS client connection will just fail. And then the program will exit. And as soon as the program exits, all the Go routines will just also, sorry if it's the wrong word, collapse. And hence the proposal by Florian in the issue was to use Florian, help me out. What is it called? The sync group?
Sync.wait group.
Okay, sync.wait group. Okay.
So for instance, you could put everything from line 85 to line 100 into another function, and then sync this function or have the sync group with create event forwarding endpoint. I think that's the proposal that Florian did.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I think that makes some sense. Yes, so all right, okay. Cool. Yeah, I think I can stop sharing now.
All right.
Perfect. Could we answer your question?
Well, yes, at least I have I could try and figure out the rest if I can, but I think I have a pretty much idea of how to go about this now.
Perfect.
If I have any other question, I'll talk to Jürgen and in the Slack channel.
Okay, yeah, feel free to reach out to us via Slack. Cool, then I will move it over. And here I have one issue that is related to the bridge and to the integrations page. Because what we forgot, or what I forgot in my last proposal about the integrations page, was that we also need to listen, no, not listen, we need to add the use cases for, or the examples for the use cases of triggering a deployment and triggering a remediation workflow with a problem event. And those examples are missing. And I already provided the example for those two use cases. And the idea is just to provide it or to add it to this list, but to make it configurable using an environment variable. And this environment variable is depending on the install option that you chose to install Keptn. Because when you have a regular Keptn installation, then it's able to execute the quality gates and the remediation use case. But just when you add the continuous delivery use case on top of the control plane, then you also can do the deployment part. And this should be also visible depending on the install option you chose here in the bridge. All right. Ermin told me that he wants to take it when no one else is working on that one. Is someone up for enhancing the integrations page? All right, then I will assign it to Ermin.
Cool. So the next two issues are actually connected. If you could just open the one in the docs repository, not the one.
They're wrong. The other
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So we got a heads up that Dynatrace is changing the UI for the API token generation to separate a little bit the old API endpoints from new API endpoints and to improve the usability. And I got this screenshot, and this is going live in the next couple of weeks, as far as I'm aware. So we need to update our documentation as well, because we have the old screenshot. So yeah, this screenshot, however, is not the right one. So don't just take this screen and edit, because we need to make sure we have the right toggles set, like on the API v1 side. I think the things will stay the same as listed on the old page. So not this screenshot, but the old page that's linked above. And for API v2, we will need the read metrics, the read entities. And I also proposed that we add the ingest metrics, because this will be something we will need in the future. Not just right now, but in the future, this will be use case. So if we already have it, yeah, we save ourselves some time.
Okay. Yeah, it's all about updating this screenshot. Any Dynatrace users out there who want to do that?
I mean, we could leave it in the backlog.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super mega urgent. I think we have 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, then let's leave it there as a reminder to get it done within the next 2 weeks, and then
I'll actually add a good first issue label to it.
Sure. All right. Yeah, and then this is the last issue that I want to briefly bring into your head again, because it's with the change of the cloud events, we also need to update all those services that are in Keptn Contrib and Keptn Sandbox. What it means is that we need to make them aware of the new cloud events 1.0 format, and in case they listen to certain events, then we also need to update Keptn services to send out the corresponding started and finished event. Yeah, Here, this issue is a meta issue that just provides the summary of all the pull requests that are of all the issues that are spread across the different repositories. When you want to get started, or when you have some time and want to work on that, please just ping me or add a note here at this issue that you want to work on updating one of those services, and then I will keep track on what's already implemented and what's still open. And I think it's also a good starting point for making yourself familiar with the eventing mechanism. And in case you want to write a Keptn service in the future at some point in time, then you already have good experience in how you have to work with the events. All right, yeah, but I will leave it as where it is. And when someone has time, just leave a comment there.
Okay, I think we are on a little bit over the hour now, so I think we can finish the meeting now. Yeah.
Yep, no further.
There's no more bullet points.
No further bullet points.
All
All
right,
right.
then. Yeah, see ya.
See you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.